Hello and welcome here to a race around Les Grands Circuits, the great circuit of France, and away we are, the tricolor flies. Oh, and we nearly rotated into some of the Ferraris. Come on, come on, come on, come on. To get on whatever that blue thing is, a Bugatti, Matra, Tourange, Peugeot, I don't know. Oh, we've got a bloody load machine there on our outside. Go through there, chap. Come on. You must remember these cars are technically called the 1954, excuse me, Cobra Endurance mod. So they're all chaps, of course. Tally-ho. Off we go on this adventure down in France. Oh, look at that there. Getting a bit squirrely there under braking, I shall say. I do say these French drive very aggressively. And yes, we're in the Dietmar Bert's Morgenstern, or, you know, Mercedes-Benz 300 SL, which is a bit easy because that was technically involved in the massive disaster of 55, but so was a Jaguar Detente that's going to be leading when Mike Gordon dived up to go to the pit, which we can get to at some points here, but we're now slipstreaming. I'm not sure they would have done that back in the day, because I don't think they understood slipstreaming. Oh, I'm here, buddy. I'm here. But we are certainly slipstreaming around these guys. Got a good aero tow. So we'll move over, retake our position down here, the Mulsanne Straight, or Ligne Droite des Hundauiers, or whatever they call it in French. Very difficult to say for me. So I stick with it. And that's not smart. Oh dear. Although we're catching up with these front runners. That's good. That's good. We got top speed. We need top speed. We're over the hill here and towards the Mulsanne. Brake, brake. It's you race these cars, you plan ahead, because when you go on the brakes some 300 meters before the corner, it is because if you miss it by 2 meters at brake point, you're going to have a very big problem. Yeah, let's just tuck in here behind Blue Boy. Again, no rollover hoop, no nothing. If that French chap has a rollover, he's got some big neck problems. We shall back out of this move. It can be quite squirrely into Indy braking. And you need to take some speed off here. You are relying a lot under braking on engine brakes. So if you're kind of in the same gear and you need to brake, you're really going to struggle. And you need to be a lot slower than you think. You feel like I've slowed it down enough. But then you start to rely on the actual brakes, which are drum brakes. Drum brakes all round, baby. Oh, bloody hell, the Italians are coming. We were meant to be friends. I'm in a Mercedes. Oh dear, I must pay attention to where I'm going. We were meant to work together. You know, like a decade before. Must not mention the war. As I've got an American right behind me, of course. So, yeah, that could be interesting. But what a circuit this is. I mean, just coming over the hill there, and then you see the entire complex there in front of you, lit up here in the early morning light. And then you come through White House and you just see this towering up, just welcoming you back after all that. I mean, it's giving me goosebumps just now. Just amazing. But yeah, this is what we now know as Dunlop Corner. We're just lifting there a bit, because we're going to be wide, otherwise into the fence. Up under the Dunlop Bridge, which for legal reasons isn't the Dunlop Bridge here. Down here through the Forest S's, there's now some actual S's beforehand as well to aid the motorcycles. Really annoyingly, get into the Bugatti circuit where they have their 24-hour race. That hump is still there. And if you watch this year's Road to Le Mans races, you will know why that can be a problem. And I've absolutely missed that here. Blimey. Yeah, we're now down the Mulsanne straight here. It's been reprofiled a bit. It comes up roughly where we can talk about that at the next lap. But we're on the Mulsanne straight away here. And look at that, the sky's starting to lighten a bit. This is gorgeous. This has changed, of course. Everything apart from the road has changed. They've paved the Hart shoulder, they've broad fences, they've brought in all of that. But we've got a chicane on our right-hand side right now. That's where that does off. After those places, which is still a restaurant that you see there, by the way. It's marvellous. And then you're blasting down here. There's a few roundabouts where the road actually diverts away from the racetrack. Now, and then we go over here, this little hump which you can kind of still feel is there. You drive because it's not flat, it's not straight. And then we come down here. Right after this house, in that little bit of open field, is where the second chicane is. So you rejoin the track here. Mate, outside or inside, on your side, buddy. Through this kick which is still there, and then you're presented with this massive hill which has been severely reduced after the 1998 late 90s accidents of the Mercedes CLKs flipping. And yet you really do need down here, because now you're braking and then you need to make the apex here actually. And then this guy has a lovely bit of just power on oversteer out of the corner like that. Wonderful. Past the signalling pits. That has changed as well when they built the roundabout at the junction that we took. The cornering. So it kind of kinks off and then we rejoin slightly earlier. But this bit here, other than paved runoff in like the last 10 years, is pretty much the same, and obviously fences and whatnot. But this is as it was back then. Spectacular, and this is really fruity. This kink here into Indy, if I get the braking just a bit wrong here, it goes very badly indeed. And we didn't there. But again, obviously, if we run wide here, as I nearly did there, we are presented with a bank of earth, and we don't want to hit that. And then we got an archer which probably encapsulates the difference to the modern circuit so clearly, because there's a house in there now, but there's just woods and there's a house, you know. And here they paved the sort of grass next to the track. They put some proper fences up, but otherwise this is the same. And then we come over here. I believe it's just after this kink that the track sort of diverts off there by the fencing. It's where the modern track sort of goes into Porsche curves, Virage du Pont, karting corner, Corvette corner is there. But we go through Maison Blanche, White House section here, spectacular part, full commitment, and it gets even scarier if you go with like the 60s cars. But yeah, this is roughly where Corvette corner would be. We come down and then 4 chicanes here, boom, rejoins us now. Go past here, just amazing, truly amazing, all-inspiring place this year's race wasn't a classic, it wasn't a great race, but I think it was a really interesting race to watch, and I think that has a lot to say for it as well, because we didn't have a lot of close racing. Certainly through the Sunday, but it counts a lot. But yes, yeah, Tete Rouge has changed its profiling. It sort of rejoins just about here-ish, is where it rejoins now. It's just after that. I think it's a restaurant or bar. So that's changed, obviously, and even that new section has been reprofiled, which I don't understand, because the one they changed it to is sort of less severe of a corner, so you brake less, which seems like the wrong thing to do. You only have 4 gears, my friend. No point going for 5th. Yeah, when you just think back to everything that's happened around this place. Like again, these cars would have driven here on the same layout, roughly, that we race on today. Like the Mulsanne straight here, other than the chicanes, it's the same road that they used in 1923 than they do now. That just the history and just everything. It's just amazing. I mean, look at this now with the sun starting to rise, sun growing lighter. It's spectacular. Wow. And then we reached the town of Mulsanne. Again, it's a track where you go places. You reach Mulsanne, a town, a village. Now we're running down to the village of Arnage. That's why Arnage is called Arnage. It is at the town of Arnage. Just spectacular. This is the kind of track that we will never see again. Even though I think the modern one has been gentrified. I think I said that to someone recently, that Le Mans these days is very gentrified because you've got paved runoff, and you've got runoff. It's the same layout, but it's changed a lot as well. But yeah, it's still Le Mans, but we're not going to see a track like this ever again, and that's such a shame, because it's the last of these fantastic French public road track. We had Reims, Rouen as well. I mean, Reims is the track that I desperately want to see in a modern sim done well, because I'm aware that it's available for Grand Prix Legends and that version's available for GTR2 and whatnot, but it's not the same as having this level of quality version of Reims available. And maybe it's because I haven't really experienced Reims in a video game. I've seen much about it, but what you hear about, and the fact that they've still got the start-finish complex is still there at Reims. Maybe it's all that just makes it such a mystical track for me. Because it's like this but smaller, and this is spectacular. Again, very different. The driving experience here is so much different. This is all speed. All speed. Handling does not really matter around here. I mean, handling isn't really a thing in these cars. It's just a matter of getting the car through the corner so you can put the power down. So you can't trail brake even a little bit, because drum brakes. But yeah, and with the second Dunlop bridge that was removed, see, it's just so crazy. Oh, look at that! What the fuck? What the fuck? Came through Tête Rouge and was just presented with Monday morning rush hour. So of course there were many classes of cars back then. We're in sort of the third highest, but there's only one car in the top class. Oh dear, somebody's in the grass. Dear, oh dear, chaps. Now let's be sensible here, chaps. Okay, what are we doing, chaps? Come on. Oh dear, we've got the D-types. The D-types have been... oh dear. Oh dear. Oh dear. Cut track. Yeah, I can see why that might be a warning for cut track, yes. Although, you really shouldn't have cut track warnings around this place, because, yeah, I didn't gain much there, did I? But wow, what a circuit again. Just power down, it's the engine roaring. And it was said that the introduction of the chicanes on the Mulsanne was when doing this race with two drivers effectively stopped, because the drivers didn't get the rest down the straight. Like a mental break from steering and driving and braking and all of that. They can sort of see what they mean. Oh, think the sun's starting to just pop out. Look at that, there's just a bit of red light there. Starting to appear on advertising boarding, so we might start to see the sun here in a moment. Yeah, look at that, we can see the clouds are being lit as well. Wow. Wow, this is fantastic. So we're racing into the daylight at Le Mans. Only 4 gears in this girl. Honestly, I think the Mercedes is more fun to drive. I've driven the Lagonda, I've driven the D-Type, and this just feels more fun to drive. I don't know why. It just feels like a car that I enjoy driving more. So that's why I'm driving it. I see, very safe there. They put some big barriers up so you can't go through there. And now with all that traffic there, I've got no idea roughly what position I'm in. Because we certainly passed some D-types. They might be coming through here at some point. We just have to wait and see. I think we might actually see them in the rear view now. So it'll be interesting to see when we actually get glimpses of the sun. Once that starts to really peak up. Because I think there are some graphical glitches here. Or limitations of the engine, really. So wild. It's like that bit on Old Spa where you kind of do the same between a barn and a house on the other side. It's very interesting. And driving this kind of also makes me wish I could go back in time and watch a race around here back then, because it's different. But I suppose everybody will be saying that. I think, you know, the next generations might be saying the same thing. There's the sun! Wow! I think, yeah, future generations might be saying the same thing about the LMP1 days. Like when it was Toyota, Porsche, Audi, or Audi, Porsche, Toyota. Because of the innovations in technology and just how cool those cars were. And honestly, I don't think we're going to feel the same way about any class of car they introduced, top class car, unless they made them as fast as they were. I mean, let's not forget that the time so we're setting this year for pole was roughly 10 seconds slower than the fastest ever lap around Le Mans for qualifying for pole. I mean, the modern hypercars are on the same pace as LMP2s were before they were slowed down. So yeah, I mean, I'm very critical of the ACO and LMEM and the way they manage the cars, because I don't think they're doing a good job, and I think there's some overall strategy that's not wrong, because I don't think it's there basically. They've got sort of a rolling cycle about when they introduce them, but with the way it's worked out, that doesn't work. Oh dear, boys, here comes the G-Type. G-Type, the D-Types are coming. I'm German, they're British. That could be interesting. Especially given the fact it was a D-Type that took out Pierre Levet in the Mercedes 300 SL in 1955, which caused the Le Mans disaster. Oh dear, he was looking at my inside. Yeah, they've just got more power than me. They're just going to have to try and run with these guys. Try and flipstream them. They've also... Oh, that's a Lagonda! Come on. Come on, chap. Shall we go or not? Thought we were racing here. Yes, again, they've just got more sort of torque out of the corners they're able to put away from me. But everything's going to be very jumbled up here. Nobody will need to stop, because you could have like 150 more than that, I think. It's like 160 something litres of fuel in the car. Look at this, the sun rising at Le Mans. It's Sunday, race day. You wake up in your tent, and you hear the race cars are still going around, and you wonder who's gone out whilst you were asleep. Who's no longer in the race? I remember I went in 2007, and I remember that, waking up and just hearing race cars. Go, oh, which one's that? Who's that? Somebody's still in the race. It's still going on. I remember that was my first thought. Oh, the race is still on. Sometimes you do. You do wonder that, you know, what's happened was, oh, sunlight, wow. And that car gets light still over the hub. Oh, just a bit too much speed in there. Of course, those trees are very safe. The bottom bit is painted white, so entirely safe, of course. Houses, we've got hay bills, although, you know, that one obviously they've got like concrete fencing around it, so that's safe entirely. You can't hit that house. It's just, yeah, I will always pick up this place because it's special, and we've just had the race. Arguably the Nürburgring 24 Hours was a much better race. But I don't think it's any comparison in terms of the racing, but there's just something truly unique about Le Mans. Because you've got the history and just everything. But yeah, it's just... You've got tents over there, and you're racing next to them. Those people will wake up and they'll open their tents, and then they will hear a car approaching, and they'll want to see whoever's still coming because they're still in the race. And these are cars that you learn how you drive smoothly, and if you need to ever learn that, drive these cars. Smooth inputs. They don't like being thrown around. That is not what these are for. You have to remember, there was no power steering in these things, so you had to be very precise. Narrow tyres, very heavy. I mean, they weigh over a ton. The panels on this is metal. So yeah, big heavy machines. Drum brakes on them. Everything you do needs to be done deliberately. It needs to be carefully thought out. Going into a corner, coming through here. I'm tempted to just give it a bit off throttle there, and I kind of do. But I also need to remember that we've got Indy that we must make. And it does tend to struggle braking here. Again, I'm in second gear. And then you lock a bit when you go down to first. You can see we've got 10.5 kilometres into the lap. It's just, again, I'll never keep being in awe of this place. If I do, there's something severely wrong, because, you know, Le Mans is Le Mans. And as I said, this year wasn't the best race, but it was a very interesting race. One safety car Everything else was dealt with on the slow zones. You only had that safety car, I suspect, because it activated the medical light when Robin Frines hit the fence there. So, yeah. It was very interesting to follow, because with no safety cars, the gaps obviously got much bigger throughout the race because they weren't bunched up. And then, obviously, some gaps would have been broken up anyway with the 3 safety cars. So, but overall, strategies will have to unfold, and there was a lot more focus for me on reliability. Oh dear. And not making mistakes because you didn't have any chance. Like if you did have make a mistake, you damaged something or something broke on the car. You didn't get like a safety car that you could perhaps work under, which you would have had in the past. Because obviously an 8-minute lap versus a 3.5-minute lap is significantly less impactful. But yeah, as far as this year's race is concerned, and I'm still very much processing it, one of my points would probably be driving standards among AM drivers. That perhaps 65 cars or 62 cars that we had this year is too many. Because we obviously had Shimoda that was prohibited from starting the race, and we had the Francois Perrodo incident certainly as being one, and most of the bigger incidents in the race did involve an AM driver, and it did have an AM driver as a responsible party if blame was apportioned. Like Brendan Reeb down into the first chicane, who put it in the fence very hard. I mean, that's just, unfortunately, that's just not typical, but I would say that is not unlike him to do that, unfortunately, from what I've seen. And then, of course, oh dear, we've got to be smart here. Yep. But then there were a few more. We had the one with, oh no, who was it with Claudio Schiavone? Because he was completely innocent there. I will not blame him one bit for that. Who was it that took him out? Obviously, yeah, Francois Perrodo, who just made a... It was, it was an honest mistake like that. Like that was. I'm not going to say there was anything deliberate there, but he made a serious error of judgment, or rather he made a serious mistake in not looking what looked like to his left. He was not aware the Corvette was on his left, and he had a reaction to the APR car on his right, and he took out the Corvette. Come on, Lagonda. That's not what you need to be doing. Look at that, the dust's starting to look red because it's being hit by the morning sun. And that was where Robin Frines went off. And Robin Frines is a factory driver, so that was not an AM mistake, he was just pushing a bit hard. That can happen, Whoa! See, I think, as Paul Trustwell said, that 62 cars is too much. Like, I'm a bit of a traditionalist as well. I like 55 cars, because 55 cars is what started in 19. Whoa, 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 whoa. Ooh, 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 ooh. Jesus Christ. Yeah, 55 cars was what started in 1923. So that seems to be, the right... Don't, mate, use your mirrors, you damn maniac. I mean, obviously I dived up the inside and I'm passing, so it's my responsibility, but I'm a racing driver, so it's never my fault, of course. Yeah, I think 55 cars is good. It also lowers the chances of incidents happening. Yeah, but again, it was a very interesting race this year. It's hard to not enjoy them more, I think. I mean, obviously 2013 was one of those ones that wasn't enjoyable. And, yeah, in a way, it's hard to describe this year because, again, it didn't have the absolutely scintillating wheel-to-wheel action, but we had strategies unfolding throughout the race, and I'll always take that, you know. You can watch IMSA if you want, cars just banging into each other's and having safety car restarts where they race each other super hard, but I like having a 24-hour race where strategy, reliability and consistency is rewarded. I mean, look at the Iron Dames car. They had a problem very early on, which dropped them like at least a lap, I think. Well, certainly a lot of time they had a puncture on like lap 2 or 3. And they limited back, they got it changed, and they finished, oh gosh, was it 7th or 8th in class? That's spectacularly strong driving. That is on the drivers who did that. That is on the mechanics who had flawless pit stops. It's on the drivers who drove a managed race. They didn't take unnecessary risks. They didn't push too hard. They drove within the limits. They didn't have contact. They didn't throw it in the fence. And that is how you get a good result. Yes, they could have won the class if they didn't have that problem, but that's racing. You've just got to look at that and go, yeah, they drove very, very good, those women. And I would say the same for actually the reshut mule car's always been a positive in the 3 years it's been in the race. First 2 years it had the all-women driving crew. And this year we had Lidl Wedu, Shawnee Lacey, and... Oh, you're on the brakes early, chap! And that French rally driver, Sebastian Ogier. Oh dear, it's all wrong there. Sebastian Ogier drove that. And they were really solid, all three of them. Like, Lidl Wedu is definitely one to watch. He's going to go far, much the same as Malte Jacobsen that we've seen in LMP3s. That kid really needs an LMP2 ride next year, by the way. If you are an LMP2 team manager out there, get him on board if at all possible. I know there's a lot of it that's down to whether or not the driver actually wants it or not. But if Malte wants to go big, if he wants the factory drives, he will have them, because that is his talent level. He is just in a class of his own in an LMP3 car, and we need to see if he can do that in an LMP2 car as well, because he could be, he could be the next Tom Christensen, which is a lot to say. I mean, 9 wins and 18 starts at Le Mans, but I do think he can do that. He is that good, that talented. But it's all down to if he wants to, of course. If he just wants to have a comfortable living, driving racing cars for his life, you know, racing in the big races, and he doesn't have the ambitions to win everything. To win, he just wants to be a racing driver by trade. But you kind of just have to respect that as well. But I do hope he gets given the chance, because he can go on to do great things. And it's the same with Lidl Wedu. I've heard so much positive about her. I've only really had a chance to see her race this year, and she's been good. I just have to really be happy to see young talents like that come through. But, you know, I think that generation, especially of women racers, Lidl Wedu is definitely one of those that are sort of really getting the same sort of chances as male drivers would, young male drivers would, and that's just wonderful to see. Well, I hope so anyway. I'm not doing it, but from the outside it certainly looks like equality. It may not have been fully achieved, but it's far closer to being achieved now. You know, like having Sophia Fleur step out of the FIA Women in Motorsport program in the reshut mule car and be just a regular APR driver this year is just wonderful to see, because she's really good in a P2 car. She has been very solid in P2s. Like her Calderon and Botskivisa got a 9th in 2020 in the first Le Mans, simply from not making a mistake. All race, I didn't see them pop up as a track limits warning or anything like that. They just kept the car clean. and I think I've said it before in videos, but that FIA Women in Motorsport program deserves so much credit for doing it all right. They've got the W Series, which is the flagship program, and that's excellent. I'm a supporter of it, because just having women hone their craft, young women hone their craft in racing, in a series where there perhaps isn't pressure, or the same kind of pressure that would be in a sort of multiple gendered class or championship is good. And it also shows young girls that women can do it, that they can grow up to be racing drivers because they can see them racing in the W Series, and that's fantastic. If that helps them get into a race car, then absolutely top stuff. But then also having problems like the Iron Dames program is absolutely outstanding, because Michelle Gatting is Danish. I've watched her through the years before she came in there. I never in a million years thought she would end up racing at Le Mans. I never thought I'd see her be as good as she is, and that's as much of a credit to her. She's taken the opportunity that was offered to her and she's run with it, and she's put in the work, and it's paid off. All three of those, Sarah Bovee, Rahel Frey's just a superstar, just full stop. And Michelle Gatting, all the three of those, just absolutely solid driving. They've not had the luck go their way, but still. In a few races, I think it was last year in the ELMS at Spielberg, they were pretty close to a race win, but they were punted, so yeah. And then, of course, we had another element of the FIA Women in Motorsport program this weekend at Road America, with the Perret Autosport coming in again with Ed Carpenter, which is wonderful to see. Beth Paredes, and truly an inspiration. She gets it, She's just amazing, and I want more of her in motorsport. Just, as far as I'm concerned, having more of them is just more of everything we need. Simona Di Silvestro, also a superstar, love her, just wonderful, great racing driver. Just again, all is good there. Oh yeah, we mustn't forget Laura von Klausner at General Motors now, being the program manager there, and she also gets it. She so gets it. So it's so nice to see in this sport, because those kind of people would possibly get shunned in other parts of the sport, other parts of sport. Like I remember a couple of years ago seeing that apparently, oh dear, yellow flag, chaps. Oh dear, it's a Ferrari. Oh dear, he's had a massive crash. Oh dear. I remember hearing that, like for football, ooh, there's going to be a women referee in football. We should be able to get the players respect and whatnot. How about she's a bloody referee? The players will have to respect her, because if they argue with her too much, they should be thrown out. Then they'll bloody respect the woman, because the referee is a referee. Does not matter the gender or whatnot. Same with like motorsport. Car doesn't matter. Track doesn't matter. Stopwatch doesn't matter. Man, woman, whatever. Drive fast. That's it. In that sense, it should, in theory, be the ultimate meritocracy sport, because if you are good at doing it, you should rise to the top. But then, of course, the question sort of begs, who will be the women in F1? Which is hard to say. If we just look into that a bit more, we've got the W Series, and Jamie Chadwick, arguably, not even arguably, she is the best woman racer of, I want to say generation, but that's wrong, because I think with racing drivers we're talking like a bracket of like 3 years-ish. But of that sort of bracket of women racers, she's definitely the best by some margin. If we then look at those that are 21 and below, it's very much more interesting to see who that is coming up. And I remember watching the W Series last year, seeing Abby Pudding come in. I think it was at Sandvort she came in, and she was superb there, and she's been that good pretty much ever since. So I do think she is also going to go places and do great things. How much is left in this race? Because it's quite long and I'm just sort of trundling on my own here, passing cars. But I suppose, you know, that's a true spirit of endurance racing. You set your pace, you look after your car, you look after yourself, and the race will come to you. As we saw, the Ferrari went off in a pretty bloody big way, didn't it? So we just need to protect the car and not do that. We've had 2 excursions. I was going to say it's going to give me a drive-through, but that doesn't matter. Because, yes, drive-throughs in this place. You've got a speed limit of 426 kilometers an hour, I believe it is. And that's an average car, yeah, figured. The weird thing about Le Mans, actually, is it's on the countryside, but because it's in a forested area, it doesn't quite feel like it. There are no real fields around it. That's the only real thing that I'm sort of going, yeah, it's not, it can sort of not feel like a public road track, because you don't say, oh dear, this is awkward. This is not where one wants to catch a slower car. Oh dear. Yellow fact still, oh dear. And somebody crashed it. Somebody hasn't crashed it, but somebody's weaving. Oh dear, somebody has crashed it actually. Oh dear, that's horrible. That's a Legondan, that's a big one. He is dead for sure. The Ferrari has been moved. Oh dear, that's Emmy's Pride, isn't it? They have made a lot of improvements to the 397. They have done a bloody good job with it. I'd also like to give a shout out to Vucha, who's the, I don't think he's the only, well, I don't think they, because I don't know if it's a bloke, but they're the, certainly the main developer of both this track and of this car set, plus the 1967 endurance car set for rFactor 2. And what a good job that they've done. I did not know Patrouille France were doing a display here. They tend to do that at the start of the race, not doing it. That's a bit silly. Thank you for that information. Don't know why he's telling me that now, it's not particularly relevant. Oh dear, we've got more Patrouille France happening here. Oh dear. Oh dear, that was... I realised that was a very bad idea, but it was too late to fully back out of it. Dear, oh dear. As I've been saying, run your pace, don't take risks. That's taking risks. That is not what we need to be doing now. I feel like I was very early on the brakes there. Old Satan in the pits over there. Did not mean to press that button, but I did. Back in the day, they would have telephones up in the pit lane. They would do the timing from the pits. Your actual pit complex up there, your team would. They would time you, they'd time the distances to the car in front and behind. They would then phone the new pits. They had phones like in the garage linked to out there. They would phone up a team representative out in the signalling pits, went for a gear that wasn't there again. And they would give them the time. They would scramble to put that on the board and hold it out as you came around. Usually it's a bit too tight, so you'd sort of get half a message or something. But that's how it was supposed to work, because you know obviously it's a long circuit. So usually what you would do with, and you still do with pit boards, is what you see is the information from the previous lap, like the gap to the front and gap behind. The team would time you one lap, they'll put the board out next lap, next time you came by, so you actually had information that was a lap old. Because back then you didn't have radios in the car, so that was the way the team communicated to the driver. Mate, pay attention to what's behind you, don't drift over, gee whiz. But yeah, that's how they would do it back then, and they could put other information on it too. Like in the games where it's represented, you only really get distance front, distance behind, and what lap you're on. But they could also give you instructions about pace, increase, decrease your pace, hit this lap, hit in X number of laps. And also like at Le Mans, for example, do important information like the driver change, like you're being replaced. Because that is important information to know, of course. I went on the throttle a bit early there, I think. Oh dear, that sun is awfully bright. Yeah, look at that. Again, all of those people are sort of the spectating areas that are roughly still in use. I mean, the forest here has been trimmed back pretty much so it's unrecognisable. And there's like spectator banking here. They've done a lot to make it more spectator friendly in that sense. Hee. That's fun. That's obviously nice that they've done that. Because I am going next year. I've absolutely decided that. 100%. I need to. The only real thing for me is how do I go? Because I went in 07 in a tent. And I think the highest we had was like 15 degrees on the Friday, otherwise it was 12, 13 degrees from Wednesday to Sunday and rain. And that wasn't pleasant. That's why I haven't been back. I suppose you could, I don't know, can you rent camper vans? Because then you could, I suppose you could fly to Paris, rent a camper van, drive to Le Mans, camp in the camper van. You can stay warm in that if it's too cold. You can be indoors, you have power and whatnot. So you've got some semblance there, and then you can drive it back and deliver it. Yeah, that might be what I do, you know. I just need to figure out whether or not anybody wants to go, because I don't know anyone that are interested enough in racing that they would actually go that far to watch a race. I know lots of people who like would go like within an hour or so to go to a motor race to watch it, but not travel that far and do that kind of commitment. And I have no issue travelling on my own. That is absolutely okay for me. Because invariably at a place like Le Mans, you will find people to hang out with because everybody there loves the race. So yeah, that might be a good idea there. Because you can also like go on the Friday. You, in theory, you would be able to use the camper van to get around and see some things if you wanted to. I was just had a thought like you could go to like the Somme, but no, that's quite far away. That's north of Paris, so that's too far on the Friday. But yeah, that might be a good idea, you know. Because then if you just, when you go down, you can just set your sat nav to not use any pay roads, and then you get to see some of the French countryside as well. That's a good idea. Because you know, it is the centenary year in 2023, so that is one that you don't want to miss. You look at this, how it's changed now. Because this would be Sunday morning and the track would start to wake up and people would reappear at the track. People that's been sleeping trackside would be waking up. Coming around again, seeing what's happening. It's such a unique place, this. There are other 24-hour... Oh dear, that's no good. That's not good. There are other 24-hour races. And I love the Nürburgring race. That is... In terms of actual racing, that is just so much of a better race. Because it's... The Nürburgring Nordschleife is a better track than Le Mans. There are more corners. There are more overtaking opportunities. There are more opportunities to make a mistake. There's more traffic. Yeah, there's so many more unpredictable factors. Like, very rarely will you take the same line into a corner 2 laps in a row around there in that race because of traffic and whatnot. So, yeah. As a race, as an actual motor race, that is the better one. But again, Le Mans has unparalleled history. And all of that, so all the emotional attachments to the race is bigger at Le Mans than anywhere else. There is a Spa 24 Hours, but that's just a GT3 race these days, which is just, I really can't be bothered with that, you know? I mean, I'll watch it, but I'm not staying up for it. Like, I usually watch the Spa 24 Hours, but, you know, it's just like, oh, that's still going on. That's a castle view for me. And then, of course, there's a Bathurst 12 Hour. Which is awesome, but it's like a full day of travelling to get to just by plane, so I'm not too sure about that one. I would love to go to that one, by the way. That would probably be a once in a lifetime opportunity. Just due to how difficult it is to get to Australia. Then you got Daytona 24 as well, but Daytona 24 Hours is an odd race for me because it kind of really dropped off when they went with Grand Am. Because, you know, it's Daytona and it's NASCAR owned, so it went with Grand Am because Grand Am was NASCAR. So that really dropped off and didn't have any kind of presence in my motorsport upbringing, because NASCAR was and has been until recently very old-fashioned in the way they distributed their coverage of their races. Whereas IMSA with the LMS made it available online, a lot of it. Like, I remember, I think it was ESPN where you had to buy access to the race, but I still did. And then when they dropped that, it was just free on YouTube. But Grand Am, like, they would just do takedown notices and whatnot and really restrict how you could view the race. So it had no presence. Which again, with the Bathurst 12 Hour, is a good example of how you grow an audience and how you make your race have an impact and assign value to it. Because I'm fairly certain I've heard that the original organisers of the Bathurst 12 Hours signed with Radio Le Mans with the full intent to utilise their presence and their audience that they could bring with them to create attention on their race. And it's worked, because it was free to view all over the world, and outside of Australia, no adverts as well. But yeah, you had just a good overall production down here. It was displayed, people saw the race, and they brought an audience with them, with Radio Le Mans, and so it just grew from there. just one of those things where you go, yep, sensible people are in charge here, making sensible decisions. Because that race was nowhere 10 years ago, pretty much. Internationally, anyway. They wanted to make it an international event, so they went to Radio Le Mans because they thought they could do that, and they were correct. And it's sort of been the same with the Nürburgring 24 Hours, which I only learned about from Radio Le Mans. And interestingly, I only learned about Radio Le Mans through going to Le Mans in 07, and I watched my first Nürburgring 24 Hours in 08 because of Radio Le Mans. And I've been watching it since. There were a few years where they were, again, weirdly archaic with how they distributed the race. It was only available on Sport 1, and they had a geo-block on their web stream, so you couldn't watch it. So there were a couple of years where I wasn't paying that much attention to it because it was very difficult, but yeah. That's also another one that I want to go to, because it's just mad, the N24. The Daytona 24, I mean, Sebring will be my preferred race really to go to, because I think Sebring is objectively a better track than the Daytona road course. The Daytona road course, I've gotten more respect for it since I've driven it in Sims, but it's not one that I go, yeah, that is a great track. I go, oh yeah, that sure is a racetrack. But yeah, they're also in America, which precludes me from going because I don't want to go to America. So yeah, and Australia is just so difficult that it kind of is prohibitive, unless like somebody comes up with like a new Concorde, which would be nice. So you could also go to the Bathurst 1000. But yeah, coming out of the pandemic, I think, I won't say definitely, but I've definitely thought more about going travelling again than I have in the years before. So we shall see. Was that, what flag was that? Was that a blue flag or was that a white flag? I mean, bloody hell, we're going through the Tour de France again here. I cannot tell for the life of me. I'm not seeing a white flag on screen, so it is probably blue. Oh, I love power on oversteer. Oh dear, he locked the brakes there a bit. Power on oversteer, just a little amount. Oh dear, he's off a bit in the Mercedes. I could make it through before the king. Jesus! That's going to be a penalty. That's going to be death, actually. Yeah, I think we're going to have to actually call the race here, because this car's fucked. And I should go throw myself off a balcony. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this much shorter race than it should have been. But goodbye for now. This has been Le Mans 1967 with 1954 cars. Yes, it's logical somewhere. Goodbye for now.